and welcome to the Reign of Blood podcast, brought to you by the Reign of Blood Festival team. So this is the podcast where you get a behind-the-scenes look at the con and the sharps and bloody kinksters all over the world who will be celebrating with us. So this podcast is intended for mature audiences who have an interest in blood and sharps-based kinks only. So if that's not you, then this podcast definitely is not for you. So these are real stories from real kinksters, and so they may contain discussions surrounding things like health, mental health, kink, blood, self-harm, traumatic experiences, and more. So if you're having a rough day or these topics could be distressing for you, then we would advise you to come back when you're more ready to enjoy the topic with us.
And we're back, listeners, for another episode for Reign of Blood. This is actually Con Week, and we just finished our lovely BIPOC panel, and these panels have been absolutely amazing. So with me today for chatting about all things blood and sharps impact are the owners of Little Fox Toy Box, in particular Schroeder. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit for folks listening?
Yeah, how's it going? My name is Schroeder. For those of you that have seen me out at events and been in the booth, I try to cater pretty heavily to the blood impact crowd. And of course, I have my wife and submissive here as well in the background, Lil Fox. I'm sure she'll chime in if I mess something up. So,
wonderful.
That's what do best.
Yeah.
So I've been a follower and a fan of your toys for quite some time. Haven't had a chance to look at them much in person yet. I need to make an order at some point. I keep reminding myself. But how about you tell us a little bit about why you started Little Fox Toy Box and how you got into the toys that you make presently?
So originally, I randomly had somebody ask me if I could make a vampire paddle, and I did, and we posted it online. And at the time, it was made from wood. I was using the same spikes that I'm currently using, but the response online was overwhelming. And at that point, it was like, well, maybe we can do this full time. So the business started up. I have a heavy emphasis on catering to the blood impact crowd as well as the deep tissue thuddy impact crowd as well. That's kind of my focus. I look for holes in the market, things that aren't being provided or aren't being provided up to the standard I think they should be. And then I prototype, refine, and get a product out there for folks to use. I kind of enjoy specifically catering to the blood impact crowd because I feel like, there's in a kink, i.e. blood play, where there's all the sanitary materials and tools and implements and toys. There's needles, there's staples, there's hooks, there's all these things that can be sanitized and cleaned. I felt that what was being provided to the blood impact crowd was not up to par. So that's a lot of what I've been trying to do is develop toys specifically for those folks.
And I definitely have seen a lot of innovation within your toy design and the way that it's designed to be sterilizable and have better hygiene practices. It's really been great to watch over the years that I've seen tidbits here and there. So props to you for pulling that together. So when you design things, what should folks? Let's put it this way. What do you suggest folks look for a quality blood impact implement? What are some of those things that you're going to be looking for as a designer, and when you're judging the quality there?
So, from my perspective, always sanitation. Can it be cleaned and how can it be cleaned? So what I use are non-porous materials. So I'll use an acrylic plastic for the base of all my blood play implements. And then currently we still have some of the old stock with brass and aluminum as part of the inserts in it, but we've been slowly making the transition fully over to stainless steel. Again, all non-porous materials. Really, it comes down to, for me, is it comfortable? Is it a usable toy? Does it make sense? Does it fill a gap, or does it improve upon an existing product? And then B, how quickly and how efficiently can it be sterilized? And then from there, I kind of look at where it falls in order, because I kind of rank my blood impact toys that I make by least amount of blood to most amount of blood. So where does it fall in that range? And that helps me out when it comes time to start vetting folks for purchase of said toys.
So, and that is something that you do that I highly approve of, but is also fairly unique from what I've seen, is vetting your blood impact players before you allow them to purchase your toys. Do you mind talking a little bit about what that process looks like and why you started it?
Yes. So we vet for blood impact, and I get people walk in the booth all the time, and they walk in and they go straight to the advanced blood play rack because the bloodchetes and the needle paddles are super shiny and cool. And we start this process of a conversation of, tell me about your knowledge in blood impact. And I place heavier emphasis on knowledge than I do experience. Because in my mind, somebody can have 20 years of experience doing the wrong goddamn thing. You know what I mean? So I want to know knowledge. I want to know before, during, aftercare for both the bottom and the toys. I want to know what other blood impact toys have you used in the past, or do you currently use? And I mean, honestly, the vetting process, there's nothing super invasive about it. It's just, does this person give off a warm, fuzzy feeling that they're going to use said toy appropriately? And I've turned people down before. Like I say, they come in the booth and we start this conversation about a blood play, a bloodchete or a needle paddle. And I'm like, okay, cool. What types of blood play have you done in the past? What types of blood impact? And they're like, oh, well, I've done staples, I've done needles, I've done hooks. And I'm like, okay, what about blood impact? And they're like, oh, well, we're just kind of getting started in that. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, well, you're not behind a bloodchete. I mean, obviously I say it a little bit nicer than that, but, I try and match the users with a toy that also matches their level in blood impact, because, you've got blood play, you've got, all these different things that are considered blood play, but blood impact, it's a different mindset. It is going in there. Your brain is working differently. With sharps play, with needles and staples and hooks, it's a very calculated placement of doing this certain thing, and depth and all this stuff. With blood impact, it's more of a visceral, like you're tenderizing the meat. We're both end up covered in blood. And there's a pool of blood on the floor as well when we're done. You know what I mean? It's a different mindset. So, again, the biggest thing and the biggest reason for vetting, again, is just matching someone with a toy that's appropriate for their skill level and their knowledge base. We don't sell any blood play online. So if you go to our Etsy, it happens all the time. People go to our Etsy and they message back and they're like, there's no bloodchetes on the Etsy. And I'm like, well, yeah, if you read our descriptions, you'll see why. But the only way to purchase our blood play is either in person or to contact us online and go through that vetting process. The advanced level toys, i.e. the needle paddle, the curry comb paddle, and the bloodchete, all do require a waiver to be signed after some healthy vetting. Some of the lower level toys, not so much, just because everybody's got to start somewhere, But again, the biggest thing is just not putting a bloodchete in the hands of someone who's doing their first blood impact scene.
For sure. I know when I look at the bloodchete again, I haven't had a chance to look at one in person, though I think we're both going to be at Tez Fest, and so that should change.
Yes, we are.
That's kind of a weapon of mass destruction.
Yes, there's a reason why it's the lower right-hand corner of the display in the booth, because it is the bloodiest toy that I make. I know we don't have very good lighting, but the idea behind it is every way you turn it, you're getting a different level of puncture, basically.
I love it. It's a beautiful piece, beautiful designs. But it's also, I like that you put so much effort into vetting and making sure that they're going to be used well. I think, for one, I'm sure it also protects your name as a maker, but it also really helps protect the community. So that's lovely service that you provide there. So,
well, everybody, when they get it, a lot of times when people discover a new kink, they go into frenzy and they want to experience everything about that kink at 150%, and sometimes someone needs to say, hey guys, slow down a little bit, and make sure that you're doing things safely and that you're thinking things out properly.
Providing kind of like those road bumps to say, hey, check yourself. Maybe you don't want to do this. You can chip bone with this shit. I mean, with that piece, it looks like it would not be that particularly difficult to actually reach bone.
A lot of, especially my heavier blood play toys, they draw blood very quickly. Very quickly. If blood is the goal, they're going to get you there more quickly than the standard, currycomb or things like that you get from a farm supply store.
Right. Wonderful pieces. So tell me a little bit more about the levels of blood impact toys that you sell, and kind of like which ones fall into each level for folks who are curious.
Okay, yeah. So I have it broken down into beginner, intermediate, advanced, because that's familiar to everyone. Beginner toys would be things like the Don't Drop It's, which is actually, it's a predicament toy, but it's also a blood toy, which I don't know if you can see it. But
yes.
That, and then you hang the weights off the bottom of it, and you tell the person don't drop it, and they have to continue to apply pressure to the point of puncture.
So it's kind of like a spiky weighted piece for folks who are listening.
Yeah. So it's a cylinder about 1 inch in diameter with 32 spikes set around it and a ring on the bottom. I like to place it between the breasts because the visual was amazing, and then start hanging weights on it and keep hanging, until you start to see the puncture. So that's kind of level one, along with the brick paddle, and we do call it a brick paddle so we don't get sued. That plus the cone paddle are all kind of what I say the beginner level blood impact toys are. They will draw blood. They don't draw a lot of blood. You do kind of have to work at it a little bit to get some blood going. But it's not going to be an overwhelming amount. The intermediate toys are basically the vampire paddles, our flagship. The thing that's a little bit different about our vampire paddles is they have threaded inserts, so that you can actually change out for different size spikes. And I have those in 2 flavors. I've got the standards, and I've got a limited run of Pride flag ones as well. And then the last level of intermediate toy right before you have to start signing a waiver is the cattail, which is, again, a cylindrical chunk of aluminum, 32 spikes on it. It's on a carbon fiber rod, approximately 22 inches long, with an aluminum handle. It is also conductive as well if you want to mix your blood in your electric play.
I've had my eyes on that one for a while.
Yeah, they're fun.
It's really cool feeling.
And then, of course, like we talked about earlier, the advanced level toys would be the needle paddle, the currycomb paddle, and the bloodchete. And again, all of those require a waiver be signed before purchase.
So what events do you guys usually, you're always traveling. What events do you usually show up at if folks are looking to be vetted and see your toys in person?
Well, we've been pretty heavy on the East Coast since we started the business. We were going as far as New Hampshire, as north. Again, we're based out of North Carolina, but we go New Hampshire would be the furthest north we'd go, and Palm Springs or West Palm Beach, Florida. Is the furthest south we go. And we just this past month finally started heading out west. We did Chicago. What was the name of that event? Kinky College in Chicago, immediately followed by Kink Fest in Portland, Oregon. Our next one is Beyond Leather. That one's in West Palm Beach, Florida. And then we have Fusion,
Dark Odyssey.
Dark Odyssey Fusion in Darlington, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Fetish Con, St. Petersburg, Florida. Test Fest in New Jersey. And then Summer Camp, Dark Odyssey Summer Camp.
Naughty Noel.
Then Naughty Noel.
Coastal Carolina Fetish Fair.
Coastal Carolina, you're doing these out of order. Coastal Carolina Fetish Fair, Naughty Noel.
Surrender.
And then we are going out to California this year to do Dark Odyssey Surrender.
And Marshmallow Mayhem.
And we'll be, a small one in Alabama, Marshmallow Mayhem. That's going to be sometime in September. They're still waiting on a date for that. So we do anywhere from 12 to 14 events a year. Again, mainly up and down the East Coast, but we are finally starting to move westward. So
impressive. I like it. It sounds like I will see you at both Test Fest and Dark Odyssey Fusion.
Fusion. Oh, you're going to be a Fusion. Is that your first time?
It will be, though things are in the works right now.
Okay.
Nothing is confirmed, so I can't make any announcements.
I tell everyone who asks, man, if you can go to one event a year on the East Coast, go to either Summer Camp or Fusion. It's a week long at a campground. There's no restriction. Well, there's fewer restrictions like than a hotel takeover where, fire and blood and things like it's all open. So, I mean, honestly, for the most part, if you can think of a kink, it's somebody there is doing it. You know what I mean? Like it's all happening there. It's an amazing place.
I'm excited to see. I'm excited to head that direction.
So make sure you swing by the booth.
Of course, I absolutely. It's okay. My bank account will not thank me, but it'll be all right. It'll be all. So I know we have about 2 or I believe possibly 3 blood impact classes coming up for Reign of Blood. But what resources would you recommend for folks who are new to blood impact to start learning, to start kind of familiarizing themselves with safer risk mitigated blood impact play?
Well, I mean, blood play in general, if you start out with a solid grounding in sharps, knowing bloodborne pathogens, knowing aftercare, knowing what to do to treat wounds and all that stuff, you're already going the right direction. Honestly, to get into blood impact, find a mentor. Find somebody that's been doing it. Find somebody that you see their photos on Fed and you see the types of play that they're doing. Ideally, you've seen it in person. Talk to them and see if you can get a mentor, because going into it cold is not the answer. It's always better. And unfortunately, to my knowledge, there aren't any written resources out there or instructional videos or anything like that. It really is a play style that you got to find somebody who knows. You got to find somebody who knows to do it safely. So from as far as I can recommend, again, check your local area. Hell, most events that you go to have some type of message board that you can put out and being like, hey, look, I want to learn this. Is anybody doing this type of scene later? Do you mind if I bop in and check it out and maybe ask you some questions before or after, but yeah, other than that, general blood safety, for the most part, that stuff you can pick up pretty easily.
Love it. Great suggestions for folks. And I know we have Leo Gage, who is a very excellent presenter with blood impact, teaching, I believe it's the blood spatter class that they're doing. I'm super excited for that one. I think they have also recorded a live demonstration for the class as well. And then nice. I know Ben Miss Kitten's team is also going to be doing some live impact, blood impact with her team. And then I think we have probably one other blood impact class. Fingers crossed. It's been a long day. I can't quite remember. But we've got a lot of things coming there. I think it'll be really good for people to learn a little bit more about, to start thinking about their risk profiles with, and get an idea of, hey, this is not just take shit and start whacking people with it without putting thought and effort into it. So there's again, needles for me can be very calming, very ritualistic. It's very precise. There's a lot of control in it. If you can't tell, I have some control issues. But don't we all? Isn't that the point? We have control issues.
Well, it is. It's pretty cool that you actually found some blood impact presenters, because there doesn't seem to be very many doing that presentation on the circuit that I've seen.
Yeah, and I know Radically Dark. Yeah. I think Radically Dark also teaches blood impact as well. I also teach blood impact, but I don't have one up for this particular class, since I'm doing blood consumption and a few other more niche things. So it's one of those things that's, again, blood impact is so much more chaotic at times, but also requires, I think, more control than just your basic needle scene, I would say. There's so many moving parts of risk mitigation and planning and precision. It's almost, well, it is more intense than just your basic needle scene. And it's also, again, the risk, the emotions, and the blood flying through the air, usually speaking.
Your Dexter Booth game has to be on point.
Oh, so much. Love myself killing.
So you might actually want to look into applying as a presenter then for Dark Odyssey.
They've already actually reached out to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they reached out to me.
There are some heavy blood impact players that go to FIFA. I mean, heavy.
I'm very excited for this. And
we'll see if they do it again this year. Last year they had the Blood Lab. Was it Friday night?
Saturday night.
Yeah, where they basically took the entirety of the main dungeon and turned it all into blood play. With Dexter rooms and like people getting sewn to each other and suspended and just.
Well, they did the deck. They straight up told you they only did the Dexter room because of your toys.
so some of my customers who are heavy blood players are also on crew there and staff. So they built that particular space because they know how much splatter my toys cost. So.
Oh man, no, they sent me an email a few months back. So I can't make any announcements because I haven't heard anything. But
fair,
could be coming soon to a place near you. No, I don't bottom much for heavy blood impact anymore. I have some health concerns and I'm on a shit ton of blood thinners.
Yeah, that can make things difficult.
Oh, so difficult. So difficult. But I love topping for it and watching the flies. Beautiful things. Let's see here.
Well, I do have some new stuff coming out too this year.
Oh, let's please do it. Yeah,
that you might be excited about. I'm hoping to have them released by the end of the year. 3 new blood play products. One is going to be my take on the vampire bra, which most people here probably are familiar with some version of. It's usually a leather style triangle style top with thumbtacks or some other things pushed through the leather. Mine's going to be clear acrylic plastic for the cups, actually molded and shaped. It'll have my threaded, I'm getting some special inserts machined currently for these things, but it'll have the threads on the inside for the whatever spikes you want. And then on the outside will be little stainless steel domes. The insert's actually going to go all the way through. So if it's also within your risk profile to add electricity, it will also be conductive as well as draw blood.
You're a mean man.
Yes, because I'm an evil bastard. I'm also going to be doing. I've been saying this one for a while. I'm still working on the design to get happy with it, but vampire ball gags will hopefully be coming this year because I feel like sharp items in the soft palate and on the tongue are interesting. So those will be coming out, and then I'm hoping to get to them. I want to release a line of blood play specific dungeon furniture. That'll actually be all stainless steel, welded, no seams, no nooks and crannies. You're done playing, you cavicide it down, and it's completely fucking sterile. So that's also in the works. Time being the factor, and never having enough of it, and it's just me. So prototyping stuff can sometimes fall by the wayside when I'm in production mode for an event.
Oh, I totally understand that. But seriously, shut up and take my money.
We've got a few. When we posted some feelers about the blood play furniture not too long ago, and we've already been reached out to by like 3 different dungeons. Like, just what is it, and when will it be available, and get it here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, that's all just identifying a hole in the market and being like, here you go, guys. Here's the thing that you all wish you had. You know.
Well, because we do need it. We need it very badly. I mean, my furniture is pleather, and I mean, it's really great furniture. Don't get me wrong. It's wood. It's lacquered wood and pleather primarily. It's really nice, but it's a pain to keep disinfected and to not feel like I'm damaging the surfaces.
To be completely honest, you've got a choice, you know. If you have a standard, let's say a standard cross or a standard spanking bench made out of wood with a leather or a pleather or even a vinyl, you've got a choice. You can either blood bond that piece of furniture, because that's essentially what's going to end up happening. You're never going to get it completely clean. Or you can try and cover the whole thing in plastic and saran wrap, which now creates another hazard. You know what I mean? As far as slips and falls and general mishaps. So hopefully being able to eliminate. Oh, I'm doing kneeling boards too. Forgot about that.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know, for those folks out there that may or may not have served in the Navy at any point in their lives, the aircraft carriers have this non-skid coating. Right. It's a 2-part epoxy that they roll out. If you look at it wrong, it skins your knees up. So I was able to get my hands on a 5-gallon kit of it. So I'll be putting out some kneeling boards of that stuff soon too, which is going to be fun.
Oh, that'd be nice.
But
it's like you have such a great mind there. So let's see. So what are some of the questions that you tend to get most frequently from people interested in your toys?
How to clean it is the biggest question that we get.
Yeah, care and maintenance, not just of the blood play, but all the toys is always a question. You know, because we do a lot of other stuff too, and you know, I do have wood impact toys, and you know, we do horsehair floggers and things like that. So care and maintenance in general. Usually by the time we've gotten to the point where said customer has their item and is handing me a card or cash to pay for it, most of the questions have been answered. I'm trying to think what else would be, but I think care and maintenance is probably the most.
Care and maintenance is the biggest one. If we do end up turning down anybody for any blood play items, the question that we get the most often for that is, what do I need to do in order to get to that level and everything like that, which you guys already talked about and everything like that.
Yeah.
So.
And again, for folks listening, we do have resources on the differences between sanitization, disinfection, sterilization, and cleaning on the rate of blood on demand, as well as options for disinfection and and all of the models for deciding what level of disinfection or sterilization you need for what toys. So be sure to check that out if that is something that you are interested in. But it seems like a lot of your toys, hopping back in, because I'm a squirrel like that, it seems like a lot of your toys are even capable of being autoclaved from what you just
Yes.
showed.
I have 3 specifically that can be autoclaved. The needle paddle, the standard vampire paddles, and the cone paddles. Ones that cannot be autoclaved is where I had to use a resin in some component of construction, i.e. the brick paddles. I had to set all those bricks into the surface of the paddle with resin.
But also the bricks are plastic.
Also, the bricks are plastic.
And we have tested these paddles in an autoclave.
Yes. So there is a little bit of controversy out there about acrylic, about its ability to be autoclaved. And as near as I can tell, it's the difference between a 2-part liquid acrylic, like a resin that gets poured into a mold. Because yes, you'll never get all the air bubbles out of that. It would cause a problem. The heat's not going to, it's going to melt and turn into a puddle in the autoclave. The acrylic that I use comes in sheets. It's 1 inch thick. It is a cast acrylic plastic. It actually goes through an industrial autoclave as part of its manufacturing process. So we, again, as Little Fox was saying, we've tested it in. We've got a buddy who's a tattoo artist and owns a has a studio and let us borrow his autoclave to test everything out. But the needle paddle, the vampire paddle, and the cone paddle can all be autoclaved.
I love it. I also love how much effort it seems like you put into knowing your materials, knowing your toys, that kind of care and precision. Something I very much like.
Well, yeah, I honestly spend far more time than I probably should thinking about this shit. Yeah, again, it all comes back to, first and foremost, like I was saying earlier, man, how is it going to be used? And it's the little things like, hey, on the needle paddle, like this thing's going to get covered in blood and it's going to get slippery. So let's put a finger index up here at the front. So that way it doesn't flat out of your hand when you're swinging it. It's all those little details that I feel like the customers appreciate.
Oh, for sure. And it's so difficult, I think, since there hasn't been much of a market or much of a way to get these. So many of us are accustomed to just winging it and rigging things. Yeah. Which is not great. But so, necessity brings innovation. And so I think those kind of little details, I know for me in particular, as a top, they make a world of difference. They make a world of difference, especially if I'm doing a really long scene or I'm doing something else. Like it just the finger grips. I know I had accidentally cut my hand when I was doing a performance, and I'd accidentally cut my finger with a knife while I was cutting my partner's shirt off because a spotlight had flashed into my eyes, and I hadn't planned for that. I got spooked. But afterward, I was doing some fire flogging, and it became really difficult to hold on to the fire floggers because they weren't designed to be held with a bloody hand. Now, hopefully that's the first time that's ever happened, and it will be the last time that ever happens. But still, just little things like that, like having an extra grip, knowing that this is going to get bloody, being built for this purpose.
Well, I also, it's great too. I have a secret list of my customers that I have seen play, and I know their style and how heavily they do blood impact and things like that. And quite often, nobody really knows who's on the list, and I like it that way. But I'll make a new toy and randomly select folks from those lists that I think would fit well with that toy, and they just might get handed one at an event saying, hey, here, go try this out and give me some feedback. All of my blood play toys go through multiple versions. Every change comes from customer feedback, every refinement, all that stuff. I love hearing tell me, how can I make it better? How can I make it better? I think the needle paddle is on version 8 at this point. It's been a 3-year process, just constantly refining it. I haven't had a refinement in probably about a year, so I think it's finally there. The bloodchete, I think, is on its 5th or 6th version. You know what I mean? It's a constant updating and refining and just trying to make the best product it can that people want.
I love it. Beautiful things. So if folks are interested in taking a look at your stock, both potentially your blood and sharps based toys and all of your other things, where can they take a look?
The best place you can go look would be in our albums, on our social media, on FetLife mainly. We do currently have an overstock from these past two events, so I do have some blood play available.
But you won't find it on Etsy.
You won't find it on Etsy. You've got to reach out. You've got to contact us. But yeah, people just dig through, look at our albums, look at some of the stuff. There's a lot of custom work in there too, because I have a policy. I'll make anything once. Whether or not I feel like I should is the problem. But so yeah, they can check it out there. Or if they just want to reach out to us and said, hey, I'm interested in your vampire paddles, can you show me what you currently got for sale? And we'll just snap a photo and send them over or something like that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking your time to meet with us, and looking forward to having you as a virtual vendor for Reign of Blood.
Absolutely. Well, we definitely appreciate you having us, and I'm actually very happy and pleased that you guys are doing this, because like we were talking about earlier, finding a resource for some of these heavier types of blood play, it's not online. There's no YouTube video. There's no step-by-step, this is how you do this thing. If there was, it'd get pulled down immediately. You know what I mean? Like, so where do people find out this stuff? You got to get a mentor. You got to find somebody that's doing the classes and doing the presenting of the information and whatnot. So kudos on you guys for putting this together.
Thank you. We appreciate it, your support, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we'll talk to you later. See you all this week for Reign of Blood.